So to continue on with our conditional statements, we talked about finding the converse, switching P and Q. We talked about the inverse, negating both P and Q, going to the opposite. Now we're going to talk about contrapositive. Contrapositive is a mixture of both of them. The way that this definition states it is you're going to negate both the hypothesis and conclusion of the converse. If you're writing all of them out, you'll see on the next page that sometimes it's just easier just to take the inverse and switch it. But what you're doing is you're doing both. You are negating you're negating both of them, and you're also switching. So here you're saying if not Q, then not P. You're performing both tasks. So we'll go ahead and jump straight into this. I got my colors ready. If the measure, you're going to be doing a lot of pausing on this, okay? Just kind of heads up, forewarning. Write the contrapositive of the following conditional statements. This first one, if the measure of angle A equals 90 degrees, then angle A is a right angle. Okay, first things first, let's find our hypothesis conclusion. Hypothesis, measure of angle A is 90 degrees. Conclusion, angle A is a right angle. So we need to switch them and change them. So I know that here I'm going to start off with my conclusion, and I need to take it to the opposite. So instead of if angle A is a right angle, we want if angle A is not a right angle. And then our ending after we take our hypothesis, instead the opposite of if angle A is equal to 90 is if angle A, or the measure of angle A is equal to 90, we say then the measure of angle A is not equal to 90. Don't forget your then. Measure of angle A is not equal to 90 degrees. There's our P and there's our negation. Next, we have if school is in session, then it is a weekday. Okay? Here we have school is in session hypothesis. It is a weekday. Conclusion. All right, we need to switch these. So we're going to start off with if the weekday, but we need to make sure it's the opposite. So if it is not a weekday, and we take our original hypothesis, school is in session. We change it to the opposite, school is not in session, and we put it after the then. Sure that we have our comma between to be grammatically correct. Have our colors, and there's our negation. Now the next statement, the next problem, we're going to take these and we're going to look at which one is the contrapositive. And we're going to actually identify what the other ones are that are not the contrapositive. We're going to identify them. We have if payday is on a weekend, then I get paid early. So here we have payday is on a weekend, I get paid early. We take a look at A. A says if I get paid early, then payday is on a weekend. So what I see here, paid early was my conclusion part of it. And payday is on a weekend is the hypothesis. So here, all we have done was we've switched Q and Q around, and this is our converse. So this is not it. Next, we have if payday is not on a weekend, then I don't get paid early. Payday being on a weekend was our hypothesis part of it. We've just now gone to the opposite. We've negated it. I don't get paid early was the concluding part. Again, going to the opposite, creating our, so we left the hypothesis and conclusion where they were, we just negated them, so we have if not P, then not Q. This was the inverse. So we take a look at the last one, it's the only choice left, right? If I don't get paid early, then payday is not on a weekend. Getting paid early was our conclusion. Payday on a weekend was our hypothesis, and we have negated both of these. So this is our if not Q, then not P, our conditional statement. Now we're going to take the next couple statements and we're going to write out all of them. Okay, converse, inverse, and contrapositive, and then we're going to identify if it's a true or a false statement. Here we're going to look first, the first one here, if measure of angle A is 55 degrees, then angle A is an acute angle. Hypothesis, conclusion, your converse is just if Q then P, we're going to switch them around. If Q then P. So we're going to say if angle A is an acute angle, then the measure of angle A is 55. Switch those two around. So here is our converse. And we're saying, okay, if angle A is an acute angle, then the measure has to be 55 degrees. That's what it's saying. Well, is every acute angle 55 degrees? No. This is a false statement. It is not always true. A counterexample would be the measure of angle A could be 32 degrees. Now with our inverse, we'll go back to our conditional if-then, and we're just going to change to the opposite for our hypothesis and our conclusion. If not P, then not Q. So, sticking with this, we're going to have it the measure of angle A is 55 degrees. We need to change it to the opposite of the measure of angle A is not equal to 55 degrees. Then we're going to change measure of angle A is an acute angle, angle A is an acute angle to angle A is not an acute angle. Okay, I've got my negation on here. Now we look at saying, okay, so if the measure is not 55 degrees, then it's not an acute angle. Kind of goes back with the converse. It's like just because it's not 55 degrees doesn't mean it's not an acute angle. Again, it could be 32 degrees. So this would be a false statement. Now, so this is what I was talking about earlier. If you're listing all three, you can just take the inverse and switch them around. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to say now if not Q, then not P. So all we're doing is switching the inverse, switch those two around. So here we go. If angle A is not an acute angle, and I accidentally circled the wrong thing over here for my negation, but if angle A is not an acute angle, meaning it's a right angle or a obtuse angle, then the measure of angle A is not equal to 55 degrees. So if it's not an acute angle, it can't be 55 degrees, and that is a true statement. All right, try the next ones on your own. Pause it and try it on your own. This one does have a not in there, so remember about negation, double negative cancels. So here we'll go ahead and identify. We have our hypothesis. There is not lightning outside. Our conclusion, we have soccer practice. All right, here's your P, here's your Q. Converse, switch them. If Q, then P. So we're going to start off with if we have soccer practice, then there is not lightning outside. All right, your converse right here. So now we're going to look at it. Okay, so if you have soccer practice, does that mean there's not going to be lightning outside? This is a hard one to say true or false because maybe you didn't see the lightning, didn't hear the thunder, but in reality, you're not going to want to be out practicing soccer in the lightning. So we're going to go ahead and claim this is true. If you've got soccer practice, I mean, there's no lightning. You're not going to put yourself in danger. We'll just go ahead and say it's true on that case. Next, we want to do our inverse. Go back to your conditional. If there's not lightning outside, then we have soccer practice, and you need to change it to the opposite. So here we have if not P, then not Q. So the opposite of there not being lightning outside is there is lightning outside. Okay, and this one had the not, so we needed to remove it. So I usually highlight where the negation is. So this word we removed it on this one. So now we need to write in the opposite of we have soccer practice, which would be we do not have soccer practice. Go ahead and keep it going. And we've got our negation, and this was our conclusion. Get my conclusion color. And so now we look at it and say, okay, if there's lightning outside, we're not going to have soccer practice? Yeah, again, we're going to play it safe. So we'll say this is a true statement. Last, we need to take that inverse that we had, and we're going to switch those around now. So if not Q, then not P. So just take these, leave the if and then, and switch them around. So looking at this, we decide, okay, so if we don't have soccer practice, that means it's definitely lightning outside, right? No, here's some counterexamples coming up. What if it's snowing? What if you didn't have soccer practice scheduled? Or what if it's not soccer season? Okay, these are all counterexamples proving that this contrapositive is actually false. The last one we're going to talk about is pretty easy to recognize because it's not going to have the if-then and the comma in between. This is going to be what's called a biconditional. The biconditional only works if the conditional and its converse are both true. So you have to look at the conditional statement, then you have to switch your hypothesis to conclusion and see if it works the other way around also. You take out the if and then. So this is why we use those colors, guys, so you can see clearly that hypothesis. We're going to take off the if, take the hypothesis, write it down. Then we're going to put the words if and only if down between that and the conclusion, and we'll bring that conclusion down. So here we've got, instead of if P then Q, it says P if and only if Q. All right? So now what we're going to do is we're going to determine if we can have a biconditional statement. Okay? So we have to test out the converse, test out the conditional statement, switch them, and see if the converse is also true. If not, we need a counterexample of the converse. If it is true, if both of them are true, then we'll write that biconditional statement. So here we have, if the measure of angle A is 90, then angle A is a right angle. I'm not going to do colors on this one because literally, guys, all you're doing is you're saying, okay, if angle A is 90 degrees, is it a right angle? Yes. Switch them. If angle A is a right angle, is it 90 degrees? Yes. So both of these are going to hold true. So all we're going to do is we're going to take off the if and write the hypothesis. A measure of angle A is 90 degrees. Now, instead of putting the comma and then, we're going to input the words if and only if. And now copy down your conclusion. Angle A is a right angle. Okay. Next, we have if school is in session, then it is a weekday. Okay. True. We don't go to school on the weekends. Switch it. If it is a weekday, then school is in session. Are we in school every weekday? No. And we had one of these before. So we cannot write a biconditional. So we're going to put no, it's not true. And we could put holidays. We have holidays on weekdays, summer vacation, Thanksgiving break, and we don't go to school during those weekdays. Now, if all sides of a triangle are congruent, then the triangle is equilateral. That is true. Switch them around. If the triangle is equilateral, then all sides are congruent. Yes, that is a straight definition. It has to go both ways on that one. So here, we'll go ahead and write our biconditional. Take off the word if and put all sides of a triangle are congruent. Okay, there's your hypothesis. Now, insert the words if and only if. And then plug in your conclusion after the word then. The triangle is equilateral. The last one, if the measure of angle A equals 55 degrees, then angle A is an acute angle. We just talked about this one right at the top. Let's switch it. If angle A is an acute angle, then measure of angle A is 55 degrees. So angle A is an acute angle. Does it have to be 55 degrees? No. We'll write in here the measure of angle A can be equal to 40 degrees. Okay. Feel free to search PHS Collins on YouTube, and you can type up conditional statements, inverse, converse, contrapositive to see previous videos I have made in the past years or any other YouTube videos, or ask your teacher for additional help.